Hi, it's Wednesday. That means it's time for another video edition of Widower Wednesday. I'm Abel Keogh, author of Dating a Widower, and today we're going to answer the question, when should a woman move in with a widower? Very important topic. I bring it up because I have seen countless women over the years get screwed on this subject. They move in when a widower is not ready, and really the purpose of this video here today is to teach you some male psychology and maybe to really help you understand if a widower is just asking you to move in because he wants you to play house and wants you to kind of take the role of wife without the title, or if he's actually serious and thinks that this might actually, strengthen or grow the relationship. So to get started, when should you move in with a widower? I highly caution you not to do such a thing and to really take your time before doing it. Let me give you a couple of examples of things I've seen online, things that I've seen, situations that I've seen unfold for women that do this before it's too ready. And to be honest with you, I've seen it go sideways or to go bad way more often than it has gone good. And again, I'm talking specifically about widowers here and maybe some of their psychology. So let me tell you a little bit about widowers and kind of their thought process. What happens to them after they lose a spouse. So when a man loses his wife, there's a big giant hole in his heart. There's a big giant hole in his life. For however many years they were married, they've kind of got into a routine, right? They probably break up the chores, or they have certain expectations of what's done in the house, maybe raising the kids, things like that. And suddenly, that's gone. When a widower loses a spouse, all of the stuff is thrown back on him. And that can be absolutely overwhelming. So not only does he have this big hole in his heart, and maybe he doesn't know what to do with his life anymore, and maybe a big purpose of his life is gone, but suddenly he finds himself, how to put this, he finds himself overwhelmed by the responsibilities of home. And so when you combine this, him being overwhelmed with his desire to go out and date again, it can lead to a situation where the woman who moves in or the woman who starts dating this widower really gets screwed. So let me give you a couple of examples. I've had many women email me over the years where they've fallen in love with this widower, and what happens is quickly they end up moving in with them. And it's not just they're moving in with them. A lot of times they will quit their jobs just so they can, because whatever, their job is too far away and they find a job closer to home. They will sell their home or apartment or whatever it is that they have. They will, pack up their stuff and put it in storage and move into there. They'll basically give up a lot. They'll give up a lot of things in order to move in with a widower. And what happens is if the relationship ends badly, or it turns out whatever, a few weeks, months, or at some point later, they realize that this widower is just kind of using them as kind of a substitute wife, they're screwed. Maybe they don't have the good job that they had anymore. They don't have a place to live and fall back to. And at least in the United States, there's not a lot of legal recourse for them. It's kind of like I've seriously seen women gone from having a house and then moving in with the widower, and then, I don't know, whatever, 4 or 5 months later, things go sour, and she's homeless for a while as she's trying to, find an apartment, maybe get another job, do something like that, and they totally get hosed over this. And I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want you to get into a situation where you're moving in with someone and then suddenly, a certain amount of time later, you're basically out on the streets. But I've seen it happen, and that's why I'm making this video, is because I don't want that to happen to you. So, so what happens is that, again, you got to understand the difference between men and women and how they often think about this. And the way widowers think, a lot of times they'll get into relationships. We've discussed this in other videos. They will get into relationships when they're not really serious about the person. That person is more of a companion to them. It's someone who's filling the hole in the heart. And then if that person moves in with them, that's the person that's taken over a lot of the duties that the late wife did. And that whatever those duties are may vary from couple to couple. But she's going in there and the widower's like, she's like, hey, we should move in together. Or maybe he says, hey, come move in. And his intention necessarily isn't that this is going to be a long-term solution, or this is going to lead to marriage. He's thinking, I'm overwhelmed at home, and when we're having a good life, so why don't you come in here and help me out with this? And of course, he's not going to come out and blatantly say that. Nobody's going to come out and blatantly say that, but that's kind of what's thinking kind of in the back of his mind, is that, man, I'm having a hard time keeping up on all this stuff that the late wife used to do. I could really use a hand with that. And I've seen it again where women are in these relationships, and what they feel like, they kind of feel like a maid or a cook, or kind of a live-in mistress, in the sense that they feel like they're suddenly moved in, and they're in this relationship, or they're in this home, and suddenly all these duties have been forced upon them, because that's what the late wife did, and they're not feeling respected, they're not feeling loved, they're feeling used. And again, I've seen this again and again and again, when you get in with a widower, that's just seriously not ready for like a serious committed relationship, and instead the widower here, he's just looking for, it really is a companion, and I guess it's a companion with benefits, because you're basically going to be sleeping together, and you're going to be doing all the stuff that the late wife had, but you're not going to have any legal recourse, that comes with getting married, and you're not going to have the title of wife or anything like that. You're just kind of a live-in girlfriend that's helping the widower out. And I tell you, you got to understand men, but for men, this is like a win-win situation. They're not viewing it necessarily the same way that the woman is. There's like, oh great, I just got this big burden off my shoulders. She's taking care of half this stuff now. I don't have to worry about it that much, and there she goes. So there's a couple ways, maybe some things to think about, that maybe you can kind of screen out the widowers that are serious about this, and maybe some things that you can do, if you're really thinking about moving in with the guy. And again, the longer you can hold off on this, or if you can maybe wait to move in until you're married, I think it'll long term, that's the best solution, and you'll be way better off by waiting and taking that step. But whether you're married or you're going to move in with them, there's a couple things you can do, and maybe some red flags that you can look for to see if he's really ready. If he's just asking you to go ahead and move in because he's lonely, or if he's asking you to move in because he really is serious about you. So the first thing you can do is ask him to make the house to your standards. I can't tell you how many women have moved in thinking, they're not totally okay with the pictures on the wall. Maybe there's pictures of the late wife everywhere, or he's taken a few down, but they're still up in various rooms in various places. And, they move in thinking, well, he'll take him down, or they move in thinking, hey, I can get used to this. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't happen. It does not happen. If you're going to move into a widower's house, you need to feel comfortable in that house. And if you feel uncomfortable in that house when you're just visiting, it's going to be 100 times worse once you're living there. Once you're living with that widower, it's going to be way worse. And you're going to be totally hating life within weeks or months. And again, if you've sold your house or made other sacrifices for him, you're going to be screwed. And honestly, on all these move-ins, it seems like for the most part, it's the woman making the sacrifice. It's not the widower. And men, when they truly love someone, they will make sacrifices for them. So my suggestion would be is if he wants you to move in with him, I would go through the house and make suggestions of things that should be changed. And again, we're not talking necessarily a total house makeover here, but I don't think it's too much to ask for all the pictures of the late wife to be down. Now, they may be some in the kids' room. If he has kids living at home, I don't have a problem with that. But, I mean, really, is that really too much to ask? Is it too much to ask to maybe move in some of your furniture or something like that? Is it too much to ask to, I don't know, have various things in and out? I mean, why should you make all the sacrifices for it? Why is the widower not expected to make sacrifices in this regard? He should totally be expected to make sacrifices. And guess what? If he's not willing to do it, if he's not willing to take pictures down, if he's not willing to give a leeway or make some sacrifices in this, he's in it. He's not in it for the right reasons. Okay, he's in it because he sees a cook, a maid, I don't know, someone to sleep with on occasion. This is what he sees. So you've got to really set some standards. You've got to make up your mind what you want, and do not move into his house until you can at least feel most of the way comfortable there. Now, I'll tell you about the sacrifice I made when a marathon girl and I got married. So soon after my late wife died, I ended up buying a house, ended up doing a lot of work on it, fixing it up. It was kind of a foreclosure house. It was in bad shape. But ended up buying this house, I put a new kitchen in it, new carpet, new paint for the most part. I mean, it was pretty much a new house. I put a lot of work into this house, especially in the months following my late wife's death. And when we got married, or when we were engaged and talking about what our marriage plans were, Marathon Girl, she was okay moving into the house. Because it was just something that I had lived in. I definitely had, it wasn't a place that me and the late wife shared. But we were talking about this, and we realized that in order to make a fresh start for us, that we just needed to move. That I needed to sell the house, and we needed to go move somewhere where maybe we could have a fresh start. So I had put all this work into the house, and I ended up selling it. And honestly, it wasn't that hard of a decision for me to make. Even though there was some sentimental value there, I felt like I'd put a lot of work into it. I went out and sold the house. I was trying to figure out, well, what's the best situation? I was looking at it. It was like, we're getting married here. What is the best environment that our marriage can survive in? What is the best environment that our relationship can survive in? And it wouldn't have been able to survive. Now, it could have survived in that house. And by the way, the house, at least, when I first started dating Marathon Girl, I had pictures of the late wife everywhere. Those slowly went down, and we could have easily turned that house into a place that she felt comfortable, and I honestly would not have had a problem with it. If she wanted to live, if we had decided it was best to actually live in that house, I would have said, whatever. We can get your furniture in here. We can paint the walls the way you want. Put up whatever pictures you want. I'll throw a lot of stuff in the. I don't know. I'll either give stuff away or store stuff, and we'll be fine. But you got to understand that was my attitude. I was willing to say, look, I just want you to be comfortable. I want this to work. And so many widowers do not have that attitude. And don't fool yourself into thinking that just by moving in with them and thinking, that hey, we're going to move in, and once I move in, the pictures are going to come down or things are going to get better. It doesn't work that way. Again, we say this over and over. What you permit, you promote. You move in with pictures on the wall, the widower is going to be thinking that you're A-okay with it, that these pictures don't bother you. Don't go out there and feel like, if you're making all the sacrifices and the widower's not, guess what? Most guys are going to be completely okay with that, but that's not what you want. You want a guy that's willing to sacrifice for him. And I know sometimes situations are complex, like they may have minor kids living at home. And I understand that, if you have minor kids living at home and they kind of have a life, it might be too heavy of a lift at that time, after you get married or move in, to expect them just to up and move. And, there's various circumstances around that, and I get it. But it's not too much to expect that you should be able to go into the bedroom, to the big public areas of the house, and feel at least somewhat comfortable there. I don't think that's asking too much. And widowers who think that you are asking too much, well, they're just not ready. They're asking you to move in for the wrong reasons. Let's just put it that way. Another thing, too, I think about before you move in, and that a lot of people don't, is that if he's assuming that he has minor kids living at home, have you been paying attention to his parenting style? It's very common, and there's some dating a widower with kids videos that you can go through on here, but it's common for widowers maybe not to parent very well. They kind of let the kids kind of get away with murder, so to speak, because they feel bad about the loss of their mom, and the kids have gone through a lot. So let's go through and kind of make things a little bit better for them by relaxing standards. You move in with that, you're going to be dealing with that parenting style 24/7. And there's lots of issues that come in with that. And just the fact that you moved in, or the fact that you're willing to set some standards, does not mean that the widower, that things are just going to change because you move in. I mean, go into this with eyes wide open, and really understand what you're getting into. Other thing to probably think about, and to maybe have the widower agree upon, is if you do move in, what are the expectations? I mean, does he expect you to drive the kids to school? Does he expect you to cook the meals? Does he expect you to do the laundry? Is that something that you're going to share? Is that something he's going to do? Again, I'm not saying this is right, because every relationship's different. Every situation is unique. And, in the end, there's probably some compromises and people got to work out for it. But I mean, what are the expectations? What are the standards? What do you expect? And is the widower going to agree to that? Because I guarantee The last place you want to be is stuck in a house where you don't feel comfortable, feeling like you got screwed over and you got no means of escape and no means of no kind of recourse to really get out of there. Not a situation that you need to be in, or you need to put the a widower in, or anybody else in, or especially if you have kids. Geez, you don't want to put those kids in that situation either. So overall, my advice is, generally not to do this. I get 80–90% of the time it does not work out for for the reasons I've listed, and probably countless others that I just haven't got to yet. So again, you're going to move in, you've really got to be careful on this. And at the very least, the house should be something that you're comfortable with. And I would actually honestly think that you should work with the widower and define what this means. You move in, what does it mean? And I would make the widower, and the widower should be making sacrifices. You shouldn't be the one that's quitting your job and selling your house or moving out of an apartment and putting your stuff in storage. I mean, again, I can't tell you how many times they end up moving in and all of their stuff's in storage and it stays there. And again, they're in a house that, I don't know, they don't like the furniture, they don't like something, and it'll grate on you, it'll get worse and worse and worse. So, I mean, as long as you can, just put this off, or at the very least, make sure that the widower is willing to sacrifice and make the house comfortable. And I'm not saying it's just a snap of the fingers and it's that easy, but, he should be willing to put you over. He should be willing to make you number one. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And if you move into a house and you don't feel like you're number one, and you don't feel like he's done enough changes to make you number one, well, guess what? You're not number one. Because men show they love you through their actions, not their words. They show it through their actions. They make sacrifices for you. And if they're not doing that, well, you're nothing more than, a live-in girlfriend who's taking the place of the wife and filling his hole in his heart. Don't want to be there. Please, please, please avoid that situation if at all possible. Anyway, that's my advice on when you should move in with a widower. Feel free to go ahead and subscribe. Got another video for you here to watch if you want. I'm Abel Keogh, author of Dating a Widower. I'll see you next Wednesday.